Tony Cuviello and April LaCerra were living in Colorado and ready to move to Asheville when April's interest in regenerative farming led her to discover Serenbe. Serenbe's emphasis on biophilia and wellness immediately resonated with April, and with Tony on board, they packed up their car and moved here without ever having visited. Now, Tony and April are the owners and operators of Allchemy, a biophilic pharmacy, and that's pharmacy with an F, not PH. Located in the heart of the Mado neighborhood, Allchemy is a health, home, and wellness retail space that redefines the traditional pharmacy experience by carrying products that meet a rigorous set of health and environmental standards. April and Tony are all about the incremental changes we can make to live healthier, more biophilic lives, and their wonderful store is such an amazing resource for doing just that. Steve and I sat down with April and Tony to chat about living in harmony with nature, taking the guesswork out of clean products, and even how subtle changes can have a big impact.
If we lived in a world where you didn't have bills, if we lived in a world where like economy wasn't as much of a thing, this is the thing we would just do by default. Because it's our favorite thing to do is to help people come back to themselves. Because that's really what our products do. That's what Allchemy's offering is.
All right, April, Tony, welcome to Serenbe Stories. How are you guys today?
Thank you. Great. Yeah, it's a beautiful, nice sunny day here.
I know it stopped raining.
Yeah.
Steve?
I know, it's a great day. Looking forward to the conversation.
I know.
The first thing I was worried about when I saw you sitting here on the middle of an afternoon, we banding the shop, right?
We did. We closed it down for a couple of hours today to come and speak to you guys. We're really excited to be here.
We're looking forward to hearing all about the backstory on what brought you here.
Yeah, so that's a perfect segue, Steve. So our first question we always ask is, what is your Serenbe story?
Yeah.
How'd you guys find
so
it?
I'm gonna kick us off a little bit with that. So our background, April and I have lived several different places, which is sort of what helped Serenbe show up to us when we found it. April grew up in Brooklyn. I actually grew up in Roswell, Georgia, but didn't know about Serenbe. I left Georgia in 2007. And we met in LA. You lived in Scottsdale as well for a little
Arizona
while before Los Angeles.
Yeah.
We met in LA and then lived in Colorado just outside of Boulder for about 6 years. We COVIDed in Colorado, which was a pretty good place to be. We ended up being in a good spot for that. Not as good as Serenbe would have been from what I hear, but we made it work. And then we were at a point where we love Colorado, but the chapter had come to a conclusion.
Yeah.
And so we were looking for another place to live. Asheville was really high on the list at that point.
Yeah, we almost moved to Asheville.
We came very close to moving there. And then one day I come home from work. We had already visited Asheville. Like we were looking at properties we'd already visited. We told our families that's where we're going. And then I come home from work one day and April comes up to me with this sheepish look on her face. And she goes, "Don't be mad. I think I might have found something I like even better than Asheville."
We had just decided, right? And then Serenbe came into my sphere. So, yeah, through an internet rabbit hole.
Yep.
Essentially. So
It happens.
my version of internet rabbit hole is I like to deep dive and learn about the core of things, right? So whatever I'm interested in the moment, I just go all in. That's how the store came to be. So at that point in our lives, we were in Colorado, and my biggest hobby, so someone said, "Okay, what do you do with your free time?" It was visiting farms, regenerative farms. So learning the power of regenerative agriculture, that was really where our space was for a while. So we, visit the farm, learn about their practices.
Farm dinners. This was key. Yeah.
Right. The health of the soil. So from what I had learned, I mean, regenerative agriculture can resolve most problems in the world, soil health, these things. So through that, I came across biophilia, which is really the same core. When you leave nature alone, it will resolve most problems just naturally by its way of being. So biophilia, I'm like, this is just the natural, it appeals to everything that I'm into, right? So it's like our natural way of being as humans if we're in alignment. So then I found the Biophilic Summit. So it's like, okay, there's a whole summit in biophilia, I need to go, we're going, we have to go. So this was when 2023,
It was end of 22 was when you found this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was one coming up, and our original plan was to go, but then we didn't end up going till the following year.
That fell through. We couldn't go to the 23 Biophilic Summit, but we knew we were going to be there for the 24.
So from that, it was like, okay, where is it being hosted, right? So that's how it's like, oh, what's this Serenbe? Like, what is this? And then I just absorbed everything I could about Serenbe, which is like, and there's so much to absorb as far as the reason, the intentionality behind every decision just blew me away. And I had no idea there was like, that was an option to live that way. So the more I saw, the more, I mean, it was just an immediate feeling. I knew immediately, like, this is where I want to be. And that was what led me to
move here without ever having visited.
Oh yeah.
We moved here sight unseen.
That's the end of that. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. We pulled in on Pi Day of this year, March 14th. And the first thing I said, I remember this moment so keenly as we're driving, because we had just left Colorado. We just basically got in our car and drove from Colorado, which is in March is barren and brown.
Nonstop.
Yeah. Well, no, not nonstop, but we stopped. We spent
that would have been amazing.
We spent a night in Dallas and a night in Alabama at my brother's house, but we got here, and so you're driving and it's just getting greener as you go, right? Even when you hit Texas, it's still a little greener in places than Colorado is in the winter. And once we got to Chat Hills and then into Serenbe, it was just so clear. And like, as soon as we pulled in, I just said, oh my God, we've moved to heaven. that was the first experience. And it's only deepened.
Quote. Yeah. It's only deepened.
It's only deepened since then. Yeah.
We were like, okay, great. We like it even more somehow than we thought we would. So we were blown away. Like, we made the right decision, which we knew, but you never know until you get there, right?
Yeah.
But that's our adventurous way to be.
And we went to the 2024 Biophilic Summit, and it was incredible.
Yeah.
It was so great.
Yeah.
Yes.
But now, by the time you arrived, you were already committed to a business.
We were.
Allchemy,
yes,
you guys own, which you opened, and it just opened to like huge success.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
thanks.
where did this idea come from? So you knew you wanted to move somewhere different. You discover Serenbe, you attend the summit.
Yeah.
And a store.
So, yeah.
Ready to go.
And I feel like there's two parts to that story, because it's the culmination of both of our careers, like full circle led us to the store.
Allchemy is a biophilic pharmacy with an F. It is our nod to nature's ability to heal so many of our maladies. So what Allchemy is a reimagined pharmacy, where you take all of the different product categories that you might see in a conventional pharmacy, and all of those products have been replaced. The conventional products have been replaced with non-toxic, artificial fragrance-free, artificial ingredient-free, for the most part, just completely clean products that work just as well as conventional products, because we know that's a rub with a lot of people is, clean products, some of them don't really work as well. What you don't see on our shelves are about 600 natural products that don't work.
Yeah.
Or that damage whatever the thing is they're cleaning or something like that. Those aren't there. These are the ones that work. We opened with just over 700 products in the store. And we just did a count yesterday because we got some new inventory in, and there are now 840.
Wow.
And of that difference of about 120 new ones, most of those have come from requests from within the community, which has been so fun and rewarding to give the people what they want.
How great is that you connected and everybody's coming to you now? This is what I know works.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
It's really been a joy.
Yeah. And we focus on partnering with, small independently owned brands that each put their whole heart into their products. They're so like Serenbe, right? In their own way, intentional about every decision. And our goal is to help amplify those smaller brands so that more people can have access to them, because it's tougher to make a truly clean product. That's sort of another rabbit hole of a conversation. But, we look at every ingredient of every product to verify what's in there. There's no hidden ingredients, that when things are processed together, there isn't some byproduct, and every claim is verified as truth.
Yeah.
So
that's huge.
Third party. Yeah.
So where did the passion come from to aggregate all these incredible products, bring them to us?
Yeah.
Tell us your background that came together.
Yeah. My background, I originally went to school to be a pharmacist, so PH pharmacist. So I did 4 years towards my doctor of pharmacy degree. And then, at that point of my life, for me personally, I found it didn't resonate with my new definition of health, essentially. So it didn't necessarily get to the root cause, rather than suppressing symptoms, like how else can we lead healthy whole lives? So that transitioned me out of that, but that's a key part in the journey of this full circle.
Yeah.
And then I ended up getting into marketing. So I did marketing, fashion marketing, working with designers. I sort of didn't know where to go, like now that I look back on it now. But I went the entrepreneurial route and got into consumer products manufacturing. So I was doing that for 15 years. So that led me to see behind the scenes of what actually is involved to get a product on the shelf. What does the process look like? What's being verified? What's not actually being verified? And not much is actually being verified, which most people don't really know. It's not conventional knowledge. So for me, the store was marrying all of those different branches and seeing, how can we do this better?
Yeah, absolutely. And then from my angle, I also had a very nonlinear path to it where my main background is in health. And so I've been a certified nutritionist since 2012, but have been a health coach since 2010. And that was my gateway, was through that whole world. And then one day we're sitting on the couch and April turns around and it's a Sunday. It's the middle of the afternoon. And I'm on the couch. April's like over at her desk and she's reading something. I actually didn't know what she was reading. And just all of a sudden she stops and pulls her headphones out and looks at me and goes, "Is it normal that people spend their Sunday afternoon reading about some 16 syllable chemical and its effects on the body?" And I said, I don't think it is, but I love you for it.
Yeah.
That was where we realized, it was at that moment that that was where the circle really, really came around completely.
So you're always told, I feel like it's common knowledge, do what you love or go in the direction of what you love. But most people don't know how to actually do that. We all know it's true, but how do you merge, your work career with something that truly makes your heart sing, it's your true passion? And that's what this has been. Like reading medical journals for fun. I never saw it as you go in that direction. What we do for ourselves in our home, our friends and family, bring that to others and just take the leap and make the offering. So the store was 15 years of our life was our buying process. It's just the way we personally lived our lives.
Mm-hmm. So what's that timeline from that conversation on the couch?
Yeah.
You're in Denver at that point?
We were. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so then you decide you're going to do a store?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That was about 18 months in the process. So that was the seed. And then it was when we were touring Asheville, because we never toured Serenbe. We just moved here. When we were touring Asheville was the first time we tried it on of okay, if we were going to build something, what would it look like? Because the shops there were
very inspiring.
Yeah, there are a lot of beautiful shops.
The town of Marshall had really passionate store owners, and we're like, what if we did something like that? We never really let the idea in. That was the first time
we tried it on.
And then, so 2023 when I first found the Biophilic Summit, ever since then, I was keeping my eye on Serenbe, right? So we moved here unseen, but we weren't going to buy unseen. So our plan was to rent first.
Yeah.
So it was just browsing rentals, just every couple of weeks or so, just refresh and see what's new or what's a good fit. And there wasn't any residential unit that really was what we were looking for.
No.
So it was just, we kind of put it down, but it was just always in the back of my mind to recheck it. And then one day there was a commercial space that was listed.
That was appealing.
And it was and I just noticed myself notice it. I'm interesting, okay. And, just put that down because I'm not looking for commercial. I'm looking for residential, right?
Yeah. We need to find a place to live.
You'll find a place to live
open
first.
a store.
But I just couldn't get out of my mind. And I'm okay. I randomly, this is me at the time, it seemed random. I'm just going to call and talk about the commercial place and see what the process would be.
See where it goes.
See where it goes.
See where it goes.
And it was through that then it ended up being a different residential space that wasn't on the website yet, right? As where we currently are. And that connected us to a residential unit that was tied into that building that also wasn't on the market yet. So it was just this really circuitous, we found the commercial before the residential, but also at the same time somehow. It was magical.
But it was the commercial space first, which is what was really funny was we signed the lease on the commercial space and we had not signed the lease yet. We hadn't finished like finalized what residential place yet. And so April and I were both just like, well, we're opening a store, but now we just need to find a place to live.
Now we just need to find a place to live.
Get a sleeping bag and a coffee.
But it was so funny because we were originally looking for residential, but the commercial wanted to happen first. It was like, I feel like it was the nudge that we needed to really go in the direction of our hearts. Like, hey, remember that concept of the store that, from, I don't know, a year or so back.
At that point, it was a year back.
What if you could actually do that? You know? So.
And you're so right, April, because this is such a heart project for us. It's the culmination of multiple different careers. I didn't even mention like the 5 or 6 others that also were part of my nonlinear path. But the main takeaway is that this is the thing that we would do if we lived in a world where you didn't have bills, if we lived in a world where like economy wasn't as much of a thing. This is the thing we would just do by default, because it's our favorite thing to do is to help people come back to themselves, because that's really what our products do. That's what Allchemy's offering is it's not about adding something to your life. It's about removing the things that block you from being your truest self. And that's what we really want to bring out in everybody, in every interaction. And we try to be that medicine to everybody that comes in the store as well.
Yeah.
And it's a fun responsibility to have. And we take it very sincerely and we enjoy it.
We really do. And I feel like the space has turned into just this place of healing and connection. Like it's a very open, welcoming, like this is what we're told, right? People just say, hey, I just feel so comfortable in here. Like, and they can't really put their finger on why exactly. And
biophilia, baby.
If there was one thing,
all the plants on the back wall.
That helps.
But if there's one thing that's like defines success of the store, I really feel like it's that people feel comfortable to come in, talk to us, spend time, get into deep conversations. We exchange like vulnerable stuff and just be a human to one another. It's like that old way of like being a shopkeeper, right? Like how it used to be. You live above the shop and you get to know your customers on this deeper, intimate level and really care. And I feel like, that's what we try and do every day.
Yeah. Sometimes there are tears. It's really been amazing to see just how open and trusting people will be. Sometimes we send people out of the store with nothing intentionally. We won't let them buy anything because like we don't give them anything. We don't buy them anything because they're just not quite ready for it yet. And we can feel that it's like, there's still a few things that you need to put down, that you need to stop doing. Otherwise, because the last thing we would want is for someone to buy a natural product. They have so many conventional products conflicting with it that they're going to take that natural product and think, oh, this doesn't work for me. And it's like, there's a certain point where you have to make the decision that you're going to remove these toxins from your life and take a more natural approach. And
I think that you guys, and I'm sort of making a leap because I know you, but I don't know you that well, but it's not a black and white world. And I think that's part of the welcoming is that you're walking in and you're not being judged.
Amen.
It's a continuum of like how we're trying to figure out health, right?
Yes.
What is it that we're trying to do? And part of it is huge, is curiosity and education, because I don't know that the whatever mascara that I'm putting on has all these weird things in it. Maybe there's a little rabbit symbol, which means it's not been tested on animals. But I think we're all seeking, where are those answers? And it's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
It's the detergent, it's the makeup, it's the lotion, it's the food, it's the clothing. Yeah. And, God, it's so much that we can be overwhelmed. To have a resource is huge. Yeah. And then to have one that, again, is more, well, like, let's help you on your path rather than like, well, you've got to get rid of everything. And until you go fully green, I'm just not going to talk to you. Because I think that's where the sort of sustainable green movement, people get really put off because, oh my God, you're judging me or you're telling me I'm bad because I'm still drinking a Coke. I heard that you guys have a concierge program. And so how does that work?
You were talking about how it's so nice to walk into kind of a judgment-free zone when you walk into a store like Allchemy. What concierge is our nod to the fact that everyone is on their health journey and it's as unique as they are. So where everyone is, we want to meet you where you are. And so what concierge is a chance for us to sit down with you and talk to you about what is it that you want to do? You know, okay, you've heard clean products are good for you. You've heard there's toxins in products and you want to clean them up. Now, what do I do? That's often sort of where we begin.
Because it could be paralyzing, like information overload on the topic.
We interact with hundreds of products every single day, and oftentimes we don't even realize it. And so what we do with concierge is we sit down and we talk with you about your priorities. And then we also will talk with you a little bit about the products you're using currently. Then from there, we build a bespoke plan, a customized plan for you that is based on the level of like how quickly you want to implement these changes. Because some families, they're going to be like wholesale, let's just do it all. And then other families are going to be like, oh, let's change like 5 things.
Yeah. So it's about identifying what are the key leverage points, based on their individual lifestyle.
That's right. How can we get you your 80-20 from this whole experience of changing just a handful of things that are going to go the longest way? That's a service that we're really happy to provide.
Well, and it sounds like that's an interesting mix of the sort of nutrition understanding, and I'll say pharmaceuticals or pharmacy, and then the coaching.
That's right.
So it's an interesting sort of, it all comes together. I see.
It does.
I see an offshoot.
Yeah, I love
business.
it. Because all this really is habit change. These are products you're buying anyways. I mean, there's not a version of your life where you're not buying laundry detergent or, all-purpose cleaner or something like that. So it's like you're buying it anyways. It's just a question of, oh, well, it's on my subscribe and save, or, oh, I usually get this from Instacart or however.
Or a lot of times, like, people don't revisit those choices. They just kind of buy the same thing that they always do just because they've always bought it. They don't even really know, like, when did I originally choose that? A lot of times it's like 30 years ago. So, thinking it doesn't matter. So it's about revisiting that, help them through, okay, this product might work a little bit differently, or just get them over that.
And ultimately, the pace that each individual and each family is going to be comfortable with changing is the pace at which they're comfortable with changing their habits. So some folks are comfortable with saying, you know what, it's going to be easier for us if we just change everything all at once. So it's one big change rather than this incremental thing. Whereas other people will say, I would rather take this a little bit at a time and kind of feel the change with each one. And then if you're in between that, that's fine.
Right.
We meet you wherever you are. That's the idea.
Right. One question I have for you is, where do you find everything? So you said when you opened, you had 700 products, and I think this was before we started talking, and now you have 800 and some. That's amazing. So do you test them all? How are you finding them? Do you have a couple resources? Like,
we have an April. April is our lead product researcher. And the answer is there is no shortcut.
Yeah.
You have apps like Yuka, you have apps like EWG that are lovely resources. They are a starting point.
Yeah.
And like, they're phenomenal. I'm not speaking badly about either of them, but they're a great jumping off point. And April referenced this earlier. It's not every product in the store that's researched. It's every ingredient. So it's every ingredient of every single product that's in the store. So and there's no brand that gets a pass. Every single product, we're looking at each ingredient of each one.
Yeah. And we work directly with each brand. There's no one place we're buying things. Everything is hand selected. We have conversations with each brand directly. But it's been a lifetime of research. Like, it really has. This is what we did for fun. And now
for 15 years.
So it's just like, we didn't realize, like, I've been building the store my whole life.
Yeah. And what are some of the brands that maybe we might recognize or not recognize? Like, what are sort of the top ones that you're seeing that you were like, okay, we have to have this?
Depends on the category.
It does. One springs to mind.
Okay, there are all the categories because
Sure. Well, at the broadest level, there are 4. We call it your medicine cabinet is one of them, which is when you walk in the store, it's the shelves that are just up against the lime washed wall. And then from there, you also have supplements, personal care, and household. And those are the broadest categories. But among subcategories there, you have things like gifts, like little gifts for the house. We do carry several non-toxic candles, that sort of thing as well. We just opened a refill station, a refill bar. That was the most requested feature prior to our opening.
And a non-toxic refill bar. So there's several refill bars out there, but they're looking at the sustainability side, but not necessarily the non-toxic ingredient side.
Right. So we check both boxes. It's thanks. That sustainability is so key. But if it's if it's a sustainable amount or an environmentally sustainable amount of a toxic product, it might be doing the environment favors, but then it's not helping you. So we wanted to check both of those boxes with the refill bar. But to answer your other question too, one of the brands that is jumping out in my head, Monica, as an answer to your question, is a really special brand out of Portland called Underluna. It's a line of shampoos and conditioners, as well as a few other body care products that are crafted by an herbalist. And we are actually the only brick and mortar store in the entire state of Georgia to carry that line. Otherwise, and this is a story you see with a lot of our brands, most of these brands, the main way you would get them for the majority of the population is going to be to have them shipped to your house and ordered directly from the brand's website or from Amazon in some cases. That's like, we have over 200 brand partners. That's 200 shipping boxes that have to go to your house if you're getting a lot of these different natural products, whereas you can get them all from us.
No, which is great. I mean, and I think that, again, back to the resources that I can go into EWG, Environmental Working Group for everybody. And it's amazing. And they kind of rank everything or they try to rank everything. But I'll find out some products just aren't covered. Like maybe they cover the brand, but not the actual one. Yeah, I'm kind of wanting to get, I used to also do Credo Beauty, which I think is really great because they do a ton of testing and research, but there isn't like one place it doesn't feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why the conversation is so confusing to people and so overwhelming because there is no definition yet of like what is non-toxic. So no one seems to really agree on what that is. I mean, it depends on where you live on the planet, what non-toxic is, which is wild to think about. So in the US, only 11 chemicals are banned from use. And there are over 88,000 chemicals that consist all the products that we slather, all over ourselves. Right. If you're in Europe, 1,300 chemicals are banned. That's very different from 11.
Right. And that statistic right there, like I knew there was a difference, but I didn't know it was that big of a difference.
It's
and that's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, it's a little, so this is our version of, okay, how do we can't combat the rules or laws head on necessarily, although I respect people that try and do that. That definitely is a big part of the picture. But in the meantime, how can we just start building something ourselves and let's do this better? Because people deserve better. People don't know those statistics. They assume that, hey, I can just go in somewhere and this product is safe and good for me. And it's not the case. Like basically there's no process to review the safety of chemicals before they're on the market. It's only if it is proved to be harmful. It's kind of opposite, like innocent until proven guilty, whereas in Europe, it's the other way.
And do you guys go with that 1,300 banned chemicals of Europe?
We're well beyond that.
Yeah. I mean, but you can use that as your basis. There's sort of like in the built environment, there's the red list of like building materials.
That's right.
So I've never heard of a red list for
products.
Yeah. And that's
interesting, right?
Yeah.
Maybe.
And so,
because it is beyond, that would be like the starting point. And then we read like, if there's ever any hint of, okay, this might be bad, or we're starting to learn, like the information, the knowledge starts somewhere. Right. But then by the time legislation can update, the product has been on the market. You've been using it for 10, 15 years. So for me, I'd rather just switch to something else because there are other options. So if there's any hint that, hey, it might be going down the path of questionable, we're just not going to do it. So it keeps, it involves us revisiting this over and over. It's not like
constantly.
We'll remove something from the store if something changes or if they're bought by someone or, different company, ownership changes.
Right. Because that's another interesting thing is they can get purchased and then that new owner is trying to optimize it financially. And then
that was so politically said.
You never know. You never know.
Capitalism will do that to you.
Yes.
Exactly. At the end of the day, these companies are businesses. So profit, and it's just, but the public might not see it that way. They think that's
the issue.
And I think we have the power as consumers. I keep looking over at our producer Katrina as if she's going to be like, yes, go. But it's like we have the power, and so sometimes we just don't know where to go. That's the biggest thing.
That's what we are trying to offer people, like support them in their version of the journey. Right. And the conversation is different with each person that walks in. We meet them where they're at and help them sort through their version of clean, balanced living.
There's a little sign that you see on the way out the door to our store that says, begin the change you wish to see in the world. This store to reference April's point from earlier, this store is us doing that, where we need a lot of change from a political and legislative standpoint. We do. But until that happens, there are things that we can do. Individuals can take steps. We have so much more power as individuals and as a collective of individuals than we realize. And if we just begin, there's so much we can accomplish even before any laws are written or anything like that. Because we know what the right thing is to do. So this store, anyone could have opened a store like this if they had the patience to do the research. There's no law against opening a store that carries only clean products. There's no law against that. It's weird. And yet when we were researching of like where we might place the store, we were looking for other examples of this store, and none exist yet. This is the first one in the world that brings all of these things together. So like you might have a refill, like companies that do refills, but they don't also do an herbal pharmacy. And then you might have ones that do, just the herb pharmacy, but don't also do supplements or don't also do household or personal care. This is the first time we've seen them all in one place, from what we can tell. And our research is decently thorough.
So one of the things you guys do is a Meet the Founders series, which I think is so cool. So tell us a little bit about that, because I think that ties into what you're talking about.
Yes.
You want to amplify, not only the knowledge that these brands exist, but then who's doing them, because I think there's like a true personal connection when you do that. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So essentially, there's a real person behind every product that's on the shelf, right? So it's bringing those people to us and hearing the why, most of them have health journeys, either their own personal health journey or their families or friends that led them to realize the importance of the conversation and create the brand. So each founder, it just has a fascinating story and so much knowledge. So we want to use the store as a community gathering space, and help us. That's the only way we can sort through all of that noise of what even is nonsense? What does this mean? Is if we all get together and share knowledge and inspire one another. And, it can be scary to learn the truth of the legislation, but, for us, it's empowering. If we all can share what we know, then choices are easier and we can help one another. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's thousands of hours that go into each one of those products that are on our shelves. Yeah. These products are tiny. Some of them are just so small. They're the size of a pill bottle in many cases. And there's thousands of hours that goes into each one of those products. And there's so many choices where those founders could have compromised and they didn't. And every one of those choices where they didn't compromise cost them more to get their product on the shelf. And it costs us more to carry it. It makes, just this fun fact about retail, there are margins in order to run the business.
Cover your costs.
Yeah. And the margins at a store like ours are much smaller, especially the way we're wanting to run it, where our goal is to make these products as accessible as possible. So there's no markup in our store. There's no, resort fee or anything like that. We're offering all of these products for the same price you could find them on the company's website. And that's really important to us because we want everyone to be able to have access to cleaner living. Health is not something that's just for the privileged.
And so tell me, have you had any founders in? Are you getting a founder in? I've seen some coming.
Yes, actually, he was just here on Thursday and it was brilliant. His name is Charlie Razook. He's the founder and CEO of Jack Fur, which is our men's clean skincare line. And it was a phenomenal event. It was the energy in the store was so relaxed and inspiring. Yeah. Where what ended up happening was Charlie wanted to set it up where it was kind of a conversational sort of Q&A approach. And by the end of the hour, no one was even raising their hands. There was just this beautiful flow of comment, question, flowing into answer, flowing into comment, flowing into sidebar question. And no one felt like they were interrupting. It was just this experience of just a conversation that happened to be among 20 people, all engaged and politely listening and wanting to know more about how these products landed on the shelf. And Charlie's story was just amazing. Yeah. It was so cool. And he flew down from New York specifically to come to Serenbe. He wasn't visiting Atlanta. It was just to come to Allchemy and to Serenbe. And
love it.
Yeah. It was really funny, actually. When he came down, he goes, his flight was super delayed. So he got to see just the barn in the twilight before he got here. And then he was leaving the next morning. So he was bummed that he couldn't get to really experience Serenbe. And he got there and he was very kind of hanging his head, and he just goes, "You guys told me. You told me I needed to stay an extra day, and I didn't listen. And I really wish I'd stayed an extra day." Yeah, it was great.
How often are you planning to host these?
Yeah, we're hoping for once a month. We're going to see how it unfolds, but it's essentially like planning itself, because once it gets started, we already have several lined up, which we're excited about. And some might be different types of events, like demoing the products, or we'll see. So
that will be one of the more structured events that we have. And we're going to take December off just because of the holidays. But April's right. We've got a few lined up that we're excited to get the date pinned down. And then we are also planning on doing a lot of sort of conversational light education pop-ups, like, hey, what the heck is greenwashing? Like, I keep hearing that word. What does that mean? Like, let's talk about that. Because we also have a lot of tips on how you can recognize it, how you can chop through some of that marketing speak that is saying something that sounds really cool, but is that actually saying anything about the product? And teach people how to read through that sort of thing. So like, that's one example, but we're going to be doing all kinds of fun things over the course of the next, forever. as long as we're alive.
So as we're wrapping up here, we always ask the last question, and I'll maybe even say, like, what did you just suggest to Charlie? If he had been here another day, what would you have had him do? Like, what's sort of your favorite?
Yeah. And with that question, I feel like we are in that position multiple times every day. I always feel like it's such a privileged position to be in. Like, we get people coming to Serenbe the first time. And I mean, the eyes are sparkling and they just, stumble into like, wow, what is this place?
They're getting fully Serenbe.
Yeah, right. And, so they ask us where to go, and we have some like landmarks that we say, but we encourage people to arrive here, right? Arrive, take it in, and be like, breathe and notice what you're feeling, like notice what you're hearing, what you're not hearing, and go with that, like without a plan, and sort of wander and see where it takes you. Cause it will always take you somewhere magical. We have our version of, when we first wandered in the woods and what we found.
Oh man.
But
the first time we wandered in the woods.
Yeah. What'd you find?
Well, yeah. I mean, the poem so the Be Still poem that is hidden in the woods.
Of all the things we found that poem.
Because the reason that ended up hitting the heart center so strongly is that's been a big part of our lives, that just be where it lands. And we had seen that poem before, but to see it etched in stone at that special place, like it's one
on the floor, like to describe it for people.
Well, and it's one of those moments where I feel like I experienced this so many times when I'm walking through Serenbe's woods, where I get to a beautiful spot and I'm like, does anyone know how amazing this spot is? And then that happened to me at that moment at the creek. And then I looked down and that was right there. I was like, oh yeah, I guess someone else figured this out too.
And it was the most perfect day because there was like water right there and there's a tree and it was in full, like colorful bloom, and the light was just right, and if you went back 2 days later, it would be different. It would be different.
It would still be beautiful, but it would be different. Yeah. That moment only happened that one time. And I feel like that is something that Serenbe just livingly encapsulates. It's such a special experiation.
Yeah. So there's that.
My advice is to get in the woods. Yeah. It's just and I'll have I actually just had someone the other day who was like, oh, that seems like, I have to walk all the way in. I'm like, no. We're talking you can go 50 feet in the woods and you'll be forest bathing. It'll be just a few steps and you can feel you're on the tree's turf now. And if you're used to feeling for these kinds of things, you can feel like the trees are pulling the stress off of you and you are feeling just actively better with every moment that you spend with them. It's just, the woods here are beyond special.
Yeah.
Well, it's so incredible that you are part of this community, that whatever forces led you here. And, not all of our listeners maybe have been to Serenbe to know the street. You have filled in. I mean, this entire street, I'm calling it a wellness valley that's starting to emerge, because all of your various neighbors and the various shops and the practitioners that are coming in, it's a pretty amazing. And to have your shop being the only shop of its own kind in the world. So you're really going to be a beacon as these people find their way. So delighted that you're here.
Thank you. So are we. It's been such a beautiful journey. Every one of those businesses you just mentioned, we just love being a part of this incredible group of small business owners who, I mean, we all work so well together, and everyone has been very well, like just beyond welcoming of us. And we all work to kind of support each other, and it's the camaraderie and teamwork feels.
There's a family feel among like the behind the scenes of the businesses, right? It's just as magical. So, I mean, we had, did business the other way where it's, cutthroat business. I've never seen anything.
That's putting it lightly.
Anything as caring as the dynamic between the businesses here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really special.
It's pulled a group of special people in, and you have added to that. So it's really exciting.
Thank you, Steve.
You need to be a beacon. We need to really let more and more people know how to find you.
Thank you. We're so delighted to be here, and we're happy to be here as this brick and mortar store. But what has blown us away, the first couple, we've been open, the 22nd will be 2 months. And what's blown us away is how many people have been visiting Serenbe from other places in the world, not just the US. And they go, do you guys do shipping? Do you have a website? And it's like, we're working on it. So because one of those nonlinear careers was e-commerce manager. So I'm working on it. We'll get there. But those are the kinds of things that we thought that would be a little bit down the road, but people they're like, no, you need to get on it quickly. So it's just been so cool. We're so happy to contribute.
Following your heart is, can lead you unexpected places.
Truly.
Yeah.
Well, we're thrilled that it led you here. And thank you guys so much. And we'll put everything in the show notes of how to find you in person for now and then future e-commerce. But it's been great hearing your story.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah. Thank you, both of you.